Now in this video, we're going to talk about how you can tell if your storage account is performing right off of the overview screen. Actually, if I minimize this top level, we scroll a little bit, we can see that there are some overview graphs right on the overview screen. And so the data is filterable. You can look at the last 7 days, the last 24 hours, 12 hours, all the way down to the last hour. Now, this storage account, I only just created it at the beginning of this section. And so it hasn't lived for all that long. And we're not really using it in a production setting. So the data that is leaving Azure, the egress, is quite limited. We did upload a 20 megabyte file. So the data incoming to Azure, we can actually see that file upload moment right here. We can also look at the amount of time that the requests are taking, which is 2 seconds on average, and the requests as they're coming in, success, authentication, other errors. This isn't super helpful. It's a good overview of what's going on. Also, should mention, we can look at the entire account as a whole or break down the blob containers, the files, the tables, and the queues as separate reports. If any of these tables look really interesting to you and you want to keep them around, there is this little pin icon that will pin that chart to the dashboard of Portal, and you'll just see that. So if I click pin, then when I go to the dashboard, this egress chart for containers at the 1 hour view will be always there. So that's one way of monitoring a storage account. If we scroll down on the settings blade, there is a monitoring section. In fact, there's 2 monitoring sections. One is the old style of monitoring, and one is a newer style of monitoring. We're going to start off in Monitoring Classic under Diagnostic Settings. Now, the time that I created the storage account had Diagnostics enabled by default, so I did not have to enable it, but I can have it off and on. By default, it's choosing 1 hour metrics for the blob storage. And if I go into the files, tables, and queues, it's also on an hourly basis. So that's quite an infrequent type of diagnostics, but it's not very intrusive. It also stores it for up to 7 days according to this slider. And I can obviously, if I need to keep it for 70 days, I can do that as well. I can also get more fine-grained diagnostics by enabling the minute level. And so every 60 seconds, it will pull the diagnostics from this. So our egress and ingress and data usage, etc. If we wanted to store this in a file, we could enable logging. Let's say I want to enable all of the reads and writes that are coming in, and that would store a reads and writes log data. So this is just the performance metrics, and down here is actual calls to that service. Now, for the purposes of this, I'm going to skip over the metrics and alerts in the classic view, and we're going to skip over to the metrics and alerts that is the more modern view. So if I go into metrics here, you're going to notice in every service, almost every service within Azure, this pretty standard way of building a graph. So I've got my storage account. I can choose the account level, the blob level. This is very familiar to the overview screen. And now what do I want to see? Let's say I want to look at the number of blobs into my account, and it's going to average that over time. So now I've created a graph that is going to average the number of blobs on my account. Now remember, this is an hourly view, so it's going to be 0. We just uploaded 1. If we were to go up to the top right here and change the graph from a 24-hour view to a 1 hour view, again, it's a 1 hour aggregation. I can basically change that to a 1 minute view over a 30-minute period. Now, in this particular case, it's not very helpful. Like I said, this isn't a production thing, and we haven't got blobs coming in and out. But so far, it hasn't registered this file that we've uploaded in this view. But once again, if this is something you want to see your blobs growing over time, or you can even add the capacity. So on a scale of 0 to 100, how close are you to exceeding your capacity of the storage account? So that kind of thing can be interesting. You can pin that to the dashboard. We can also say, let's create an alert rule that I want to receive an SMS message when the capacity of the storage account exceeds 75%. So I can go alert rule, that's the storage account, add the condition. What metric do I want? I want the use capacity, and I want to say greater than, this is listed in bytes. So the capacity of the storage account is 5 petabytes, sorry. So we can say if it let's put 1 petabyte, right? So 1 million bytes is a megabyte. That's a gigabyte. That's a terabyte. And that's a petabyte. So if this capacity is greater than 1 petabyte, and it's going to check every minute and average it over the hour. So, okay, then I want to receive an SMS message. Now, this is just a very basic type of alert that you want to get. There is a cost of 10 cents per month per alert. Now go down here. If I have an existing action group, I can add it, but I can also create an action group. An action group is basically, let's go into here, SMS message, an email, running a function, doing some sort of automation, a logic app, calling a URL, any kind of thing that we want to happen, we can set that up as an action group. And I'm not going to create that right now. We'll close this out without creating it. But basically, that's how you would create an alert. Finally, we should talk about insights. Now, when I open this up, this gets into the Azure Monitor. So if I was to go into the Azure Monitor service, then we would see something similar to this. This Insights preview is basically a predefined template of interesting reports. Again, we can pin this to the dashboard if we need it. We can always go back to the gallery and look at other templates, or we can edit this template. It becomes our own storage dashboard. Let's say we want to go into capacity here and we want to see some existing graphs on how our storage account's doing for capacity or for performance. And we can see how much latency there is, how much this success is happening, the various milliseconds for all the various calls. So every REST API, put, set, delete, create, has performance metric that's being given out. So this gallery is sort of a predefined list of interesting reports. And if any one of these things, again, it becomes interesting to you, you can pin it, or you can even create an alert based on that.